I still remember the sound of the rain that night, soft but steady, tapping against the window like it was trying to warn me. I wish I had listened. It was supposed to be a quiet family weekend, the kind where we all gather, eat too much, laugh about old memories, and pretend like everything's perfect. But nothing about that night turned out the way it was supposed to. It was the night I crossed a line I never imagined I would even get close to, the night I found myself in a moment with my cousin's husband that changed everything. It started off so innocent. My cousin, Alina, had invited us all over for a small get-together at her house. She and I had grown up like sisters. We shared secrets, clothes, even dreams. She was the one person I never thought I'd ever hurt. But sometimes life puts you in a situation where emotions blur the lines, where judgment fades, and one wrong choice can destroy everything. Her husband, Ray, had always been charming. The kind of guy who walks into a room and everyone notices. He had a calm confidence, the kind that made people feel safe around him. I won't lie, over the years, I had noticed his glances lasting a little too long, his compliments a little too personal. But I brushed them off. Because that's what you do when you respect someone's marriage. That's what you do when you love your cousin. But that night, something shifted. Alina had gone to bed early, tired from hosting. The guests had left, and Ray and I ended up in the kitchen, finishing the last of the wine. We talked, we laughed, and for a moment, it felt like we were two people who understood each other a little too well. I should have walked away then. I should have remembered the promises, the consequences, the people who would be hurt. But I didn't. I stayed. And that choice haunts me. I'm not proud of what happened next. In fact, I've carried the weight of that night every single day since. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a betrayal, wrapped in guilt, silence, and shame. I never meant for it to go that far. I never meant to destroy the trust that held our family together. But the truth is, one moment of weakness can undo years of loyalty. What followed was even worse than the moment itself, the lies, the fear of being found out, and the cold silence between me and Alina, who knew something wasn't right even if she didn't have the full truth. I tried to move on, to forget, but some lines, once crossed, leave permanent scars. And just when I thought the past was buried, something unexpected happened. Something that forced everything back to the surface and made me face the damage I had caused. But I'll tell you more about that in the next part. The days after that night felt unreal, like I was watching someone else live my life. I smiled when I had to, laughed when it was expected, but inside, I was drowning. Every time Alina called me or sent a message, my chest tightened. She was still her usual self, sweet, trusting, always asking if I was okay. That made it worse. Her kindness was a constant reminder of how badly I had messed up. I started avoiding family gatherings. I had excuses ready for everything: work, headaches, travel. Anything to avoid facing her. Ray, on the other hand, acted like nothing had happened. Like we had shared just a passing moment that didn't matter. He'd send the occasional text, something casual, something harmless on the surface. But I knew what those messages really meant. He wasn't just checking in. He was testing the waters. I ignored most of them, but deep down, a part of me was scared that he might tell someone, or worse, that I would slip up and expose everything myself. That guilt started to change me. I wasn't the same around my family. My parents noticed it, my sister asked if something was wrong. But how do you even begin to explain something like this? How do you admit that you betrayed someone who trusted you like a sister? I wanted to forget it, to erase that night from my memory. But it stayed with me, in the quiet moments before sleep, in the mirror when I avoided my own eyes. Then came the twist I wasn't prepared for. Alina called me one evening, her voice unusually quiet. She said she needed to talk, that something had been bothering her for a while. My stomach dropped. I asked her what it was, trying to keep my voice steady. She hesitated, then said she felt like Ray had changed. He was distant, distracted. He wasn't the same man she married. And then she asked me the one question I never thought she would: has he ever made you feel uncomfortable? I froze. My mind raced. Was this her way of confronting me? Did she already know? Or was she genuinely just looking for answers to her own confusion? I told her I hadn't noticed anything unusual, and she paused, like she didn't quite believe me, but didn't push either. We ended the call, but my hands were shaking. Whatever I had tried to bury was slowly crawling back to the surface. The days after that phone call felt heavier. I couldn't stop thinking about what Alina had said. The way she asked that question, soft but unsure, kept echoing in my mind. It was like she was trying to piece something together but didn't want to believe it. And honestly, I didn't know what scared me more, the thought that she knew, or the thought that she was getting closer to the truth. I started watching everything more carefully. Every interaction, every word. At a family dinner the following weekend, I noticed the distance between them. Ray barely looked at her, and when he did, there was a strange coldness in his eyes. Alina, always the one to smile and make sure everyone felt included, seemed distracted. She kept glancing toward him like she was searching for something that wasn't there anymore. My cousin and I finally stepped out onto the porch for some air, just the two of us. She lit a cigarette, a habit she picked up during stressful times, and stared out into the night. She asked me if I thought Ray might be hiding something. I wanted to tell her everything right then, to get it out and stop living with the weight on my chest. But I just couldn't. Instead, I told her that sometimes people change, even when we wish they wouldn't. She nodded but didn't look convinced. Meanwhile, Ray started acting differently with me too. He stopped sending messages. He barely even made eye contact at that dinner, like he was trying to erase me from his world before something came crashing down. It should have made me feel better, safer. But it didn't. It felt like silence before a storm. Then there was another layer to all of this. My younger brother, who had always looked up to Ray, began asking questions. He had overheard Alina crying one night on the phone with someone, possibly her mother, and he was worried. He asked me if I thought they were having marriage problems. I shrugged it off, but he noticed my hesitation. That's the thing about family: when something's wrong, they feel it, even if you try to hide it. The tension kept growing. No one was saying anything directly, but you could sense it in the air, like a truth waiting to explode. And deep down, I knew the moment of reckoning was coming. I just didn't know when, or how much damage it would leave behind. Everything started to unravel faster than I was ready for. Alina grew more distant with each passing day, and though she never said anything directly, her eyes said enough. They didn't carry that same trust anymore. It was like she was watching me, searching for something she couldn't quite put into words. And the worst part was, I couldn't blame her. I had given her reasons, hidden beneath silence, but still there. A week later, I got a message from Ray, the first one in a long time. It was just 3 words: "We need to talk." My heart sank. I stared at the screen for minutes, unsure whether to respond or delete it altogether. But something told me I had to know what he meant. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe on the edge of town, one we used to go to as a group, back when things were still normal. When I walked in and saw him already sitting at the back, I felt my stomach twist. He looked nervous, tapping his fingers against the mug in front of him. I sat down without saying a word. He didn't waste time. He said Alina had started asking questions, about that night, about me. He thought she knew something, maybe not everything, but enough to be suspicious. I asked him what he planned to do, and his answer chilled me: if she finds out, we blame each other. I left that meeting with my heart pounding. Ray wasn't trying to protect anyone. He was trying to save himself. And if that meant dragging me down with him, he'd do it without hesitation. I knew then that silence was no longer safe. But I still didn't know what the right move was. Then, something happened I never expected. Alina showed up at my apartment. No warning. No calls. Just her, standing at my door, holding her phone in one hand and an old photo of the three of us in the other. She asked if she could come in, and I nodded, barely able to breathe. She sat down, placed the photo on the table, and looked straight at me. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were red. I found something, and I need to know the truth, she said quietly. And just like that, everything I had been running from was right in front of me, waiting to be faced. I stared at Alina, frozen, my thoughts scrambling to find something to say, anything that would undo the weight behind her words. But before I could respond, she placed her phone on the table and hit play. I didn't want to look, but my eyes moved on their own. It was a voice recording. At first, I didn't recognize it. Then I heard Ray's voice, clear, sharp, and careless. I told her it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything. But she's still acting like she's the victim. She knew what she was doing. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't know where he had said it or to whom, but the damage was instant. My hands started to tremble. Alina didn't say anything while the recording played. She just stared at me, her expression a mix of betrayal and disbelief. I wasn't supposed to find that, she said quietly. He recorded it while talking to a friend. It backed up to my cloud by mistake. I've had it for days, just trying to make sense of it. I wanted to speak, to explain, but I didn't even know where to start. Before I could get a word out, she held up her hand. There's more, she said, reaching into her bag and pulling out a folded piece of paper. She slid it across the table. I picked it up with shaky fingers, unfolding it slowly. It was a printed screenshot of Ray's call logs. My number was there, too many times. Too late at night. I didn't want to believe it, she continued, her voice cracking for the first time. But you've been distant, and Ray, he's been hiding things. I knew something was wrong, but I never imagined it was you. I couldn't lie anymore. I opened my mouth to admit everything, but she cut me off again. I'm not here to make a scene, she said. But I need you to know something. What she said next shook me more than anything I was prepared for. I'm pregnant. It felt like the world tilted. My head spun, my heartbeat thundered in my ears. I didn't even know how to respond. Pregnant? After everything? My cousin, who I had already betrayed in the worst way, was now carrying the child of the man I had crossed the line with. The weight of what I'd done multiplied instantly. She stood up, gathering her things. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, she said. But I needed you to hear it from me, not through someone else. As she walked to the door, I sat there stunned. The room felt cold, too quiet. I thought things couldn't get worse after that night, but I was wrong. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about a future that was now completely tangled in guilt, lies, and consequences none of us were ready to face. And I knew the worst was still ahead. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, haunted by Alina's words. Pregnant. The one word I never saw coming. The guilt, already unbearable, now felt like it had carved a permanent place inside me. I kept going over every choice I had made, every moment I could have walked away and didn't. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't keep hiding. I couldn't let Ray keep spinning this into something it wasn't. I called Alina. She didn't answer, but I left her a message. I told her everything, no excuses, no sugarcoating. I told her about that night, about how I let a moment of weakness turn into something unforgivable. I said I wasn't asking for forgiveness, and I didn't expect her to ever speak to me again, but I wanted her to know the truth from me, not from him. I ended the message crying, and for the first time, the tears felt honest, not just out of guilt, but out of grief for the relationship I'd broken beyond repair. Hours passed. I waited, hoping she'd respond, but she didn't. Instead, I got a call from my mother later that evening. Her voice was tight and serious. You need to come over, she said. Alina's here. My heart sank. I walked into the living room and saw Alina sitting across from my parents. She looked calm, too calm. I sat down slowly. No one said a word for a long moment. Then she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "I'm leaving him." I blinked, stunned. "What?" She nodded. "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not raising a child with a man who lies and manipulates. And I'm not staying silent about what he's done." She turned to my parents. "He's been cheating. And not just with her," she said, nodding toward me. "There are more. I found messages. Photos. Even money transfers to someone I didn't recognize." The room fell silent. I felt sick. She turned back to me, her expression softer now. "What you did hurt me. Deeply. But you were one of many. You were just the one I didn't expect." I was speechless. My chest was tight, but under all the pain, there was also relief. Not because I was just one of many, but because the truth was finally out. No more hiding. Alina stood up. "I'm going to be okay," she said. "But I need space. And time. A lot of it." I nodded, unable to speak. Then, just as she was about to leave, she paused. "By the way," she said, glancing over her shoulder, "the baby? It's not his." And with that, she walked out the door. I sat there frozen, stunned. That one final twist flipped everything again. I had no idea who the father was. And maybe it didn't matter. But in that moment, I realized the story wasn't ending, it was just changing direction. I sat there long after Alina left, still hearing her last words over and over. "The baby isn't his." It was like everything I thought I understood had been turned upside down again. For a long time, I didn't move. My parents were quiet too. No one knew what to say. Eventually, I went home, emotionally drained, but oddly lighter than I had felt in weeks. The worst was out. There was no more hiding. No more lies. Just the quiet after the storm. The next few weeks were strange. I didn't see Alina. She stayed with her parents for a while, sorting through her emotions and planning her next steps. I heard through my mother that she had filed for separation. Ray tried to reach out to her, tried to twist the story again, but she had finally stopped listening. She'd found her strength, and she was holding on to it fiercely. She didn't owe anyone her silence anymore, especially not someone who had betrayed her so many times behind closed doors. As for me, I started seeing a therapist. I knew I had to understand how I got to that point, why I let myself get swept into something that hurt someone I loved. I wasn't looking for pity. I just didn't want to carry the same shame into the next chapter of my life. Talking helped. It didn't fix everything, but it gave me clarity. And slowly, I began forgiving myself, not because what I did was okay, but because I needed to take responsibility and learn from it. Alina and I didn't speak for a long time. But one afternoon, months later, I ran into her at a local bookstore. She looked different, calmer, more grounded. Her baby bump was showing, and for a moment, I didn't know if I should say anything. But she came to me first. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. "I'm doing okay," she said. "It's still hard, but I'm getting through it." I told her I was happy for her and that I truly meant it. She nodded, then paused. "I don't know if we'll ever go back to the way things were," she said, "but I hope we both come out of this better." That moment stayed with me. Not because it was dramatic or full of tears, but because it was honest. It was real. We were two women standing in the mess life had thrown at us, trying to grow in different ways. This story, like many real infidelity stories, didn't have a perfect ending. There was no neat closure. But there was truth. There was healing. And there was the painful, necessary process of starting over. If there's anything I've learned, it's that betrayal doesn't just break trust, it forces you to look at who you really are. And sometimes, facing yourself is the hardest part. But if you're brave enough, it can also be the beginning of something stronger. Thank you for listening to my story. 39.